All right, in this video, we're going to be looking at the imperfect tense. So the imperfect tense is our second tense that we're getting to learn now, and it's going to be applying to verbs. Now remember, when we talk about tense, what that means is that it's the time when the action of the verb is taking place. Previously, we worked with the present tense, and in the present tense, that's dealing with things that are happening in the now. The imperfect tense is things that have happened in the past. Specifically, we refer to this as past incomplete action. So past incomplete action. We can also refer to this sometimes as continual action or ongoing action. The idea with the imperfect tense is that it is going to refer to something that has happened in the past, but which happened over an extended period of time, not something that was just one and done type of thing. There are several ways of doing this in English. Now, when we start translating the imperfect tense in English, we tend to use words like was. I was walking. It implies that this is something that took place over an extended period of time, so we use was. It shows past tense. It shows that it was going on for a long time. We can also use words like kept. She kept talking even though I wasn't listening. It kept talking, again, is something that took place over an extended period of time, even though it happened in the past. We also can use something like used to. I used to run in the mornings. Actually, I've never run, but that could be an example there. I used to run. Again, it's something that happened in the past, and it took place over an extended period of time. This is the idea that it's something that was a regular occurrence, that maybe it happened a couple times a week. You used to run. The last way of doing this is to simply use an ED type form, just a simple past tense in English. It's not generally the best way of doing it because you can't really tell if it took place over an extended period of time, but it is one way of doing that. And so you could simply say something like, he talked to the doctor. Again, we're just using a simple ED form there, a simple past tense, but it's still going to give you the idea that it took place over an extended period of time. When we work with the imperfect tense, that is the big key to keep in mind, is that when we're translating it into English, show that it took place over more than just a short period of time. The idea that it was ongoing. Now, when we start working with this in Latin, there are a few quick little things to pay attention to. And so let's look at the formation of the imperfect tense in Latin. There are just a few steps that we need to know. We are working with verbs, so let's go ahead and use an example verb like the verb amo, meaning to love. Its principal parts are, of course, amo, amare, amavi, and amatum. When we start dealing with the imperfect tense, our first step, step one, will be to form the present stem. So this is the exact same stem that we were using when we created the present tense. And so for most of the time, that simply remains that we're going to take the RE off of the infinitive. So if we're going to create the present stem with amo, amare, we just drop that RE and we're left with AMA, ama. That's our present stem, and that's our first step. We've got to create that stem because you really cannot conjugate a verb without doing that. Step two is the key. This is what creates the imperfect tense. And this is that we are going to add what is called a tense indicator. And a tense indicator is just a couple of letters that when we take these letters, we add it to a word, it's going to tell us what tense it is. And so with the imperfect tense, the tense indicator are the letters BA. And so anytime you want to create the imperfect tense with a regular verb, you simply add the letters BA to the present stem. So if we were using amo, amare, we add that BA. Now, as a side note, the vowel right before that B is always going to be long, even if it was a third conjugation, because right now we can see amare, that had a long A to begin with. But even if that had been a third conjugation verb and that was a shorting, it's still going to become long right there. The vowel right before the B is always going to be long. So we add that tense indicator to just the letters BA. Now this also helps us when we're going to be translating going the opposite direction, because we know if we see a word with the letters BA in it, it's probably the imperfect tense, and we're going to know how to translate it because of that. Finally, this brings us to step 3, And step 3 is going to be that final step that is really easy. We're going to see this happen a lot when we work with verbs, regardless of the tense. And that's simply add the personal endings. For the present tense, we know that those personal endings are ost, must, to, senti in the active voice, and in the passive voice, they're ris, ter, mini, enter. With the imperfect tense, there's only a slight change there. Instead of an O, the first person singular is going to be an M. After that, the rest of the active voice is going to stay the same, st, must, tis, enti. And then also, when we get over to the passive voice, ris, ter, mini, enter, it stays the same. So R, ris, tur, mur, mini, and ntur. So when you want to go ahead and fully conjugate one of these verbs in the imperfect tense, all you have to do is add all these little parts. So for amaba, we can add an M and it becomes amabam. I was loving, I used to love, I kept on loving, or just simply I loved. And we can do that with any of the forms. You can simply go through, and if you wanted to, you can fully conjugate this. Amabas, amabat, amabamas, amabatus, and amabat. And when you go through that, it gives you all the forms. I was loving, you were loving, he, she, or it was loving, we were loving, you were loving, and they were loving. And you just simply go through it like that. So when it comes to the imperfect tense, it is a different tense. It's something new. But when you really come down to and look at it up close, it's really simple. We create it just by inserting a couple extra letters. We translate it by putting an extra word in there. And that's all there is to it, the imperfect tense.